Hi, and welcome to another Bold Women Lawyers Spotlight. I'm Sharon Christie. I am the CEO and founder of Bold Women Lawyers. I am a lawyer, but after many years of practice, 16 as a solo practitioner and about 15 before that in a small PI and med-mal firm as a partner, I now have my business, Bold Women Lawyers, where I coach lawyers in solo and small firms, and I do business strategy with them. So today, we have a great topic today. I have Deborah Myers here, whose company is 𝗓𝗗𝗏. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Deborah. We're going to talk about how you treat your clients, not as a transaction, but as a real person. And it makes a huge difference in terms of your future business with those clients and those referral sources. So let me tell you a little bit about Deborah, and then we're going to jump into it. Deborah, I'm going to tell you, I'm reading all the things you've done. I'm tired just reading about everything you've done. I feel like a bit of a slug compared to you, but here we go. Deborah is the CEO of 𝗓𝗗𝗏, a company that works with businesses to strengthen relationships with clients, customers, referral sources, and employees through customized strategies, which includes gifting unique handcrafted items created by artisans from around the world. Now, before she started this company, Deborah was the director in external and government affairs and public policy at 𝗓𝗏𝗏 Biologicals. She, before that, worked for Fisher Scientific Worldwide as Director of Business Development for 𝗩𝗶𝗿𝗁𝗃. I may have really butchered that name, but as Director of International Finance and at 𝗩𝗏𝗏 𝗏 as an advisor. And before that, she spent 10 years in Inter-American Development Bank, an organization that focuses on economic development in Latin America. So she has a tremendous worldwide background in many fields. And then she moved into what we're talking about today, which is, we all know about gifting. We all send presents at the holidays. Probably not the best timing, but that's a whole different discussion. But we all do that. But we all send, I'm a lawyer. I know what we send. We send baskets of cheer. I send chocolates every year. We usually send food. You might send a plant, but it's a pretty generic thing. And Deborah's going to tell us why that's probably not your best strategy and what you can do about it. So welcome, Deborah. Welcome. I'm really happy to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to our discussion because, as you know, this is something that I am passionate about.
I do know that. And, my very first question to you is this. Why is it important that you customize gifts for your clients, for your referral sources, for your employees? Tell us about that.
Well, so the first thing when I start working with a client, what we talk about is the importance of showing how much you value and appreciate your clients and their business. And most people think, okay, well, I'll, as you just said, I'll send a gift. But what's really important is that you personalize the gift. And what I mean by personalize is that it is meaningful to them. Mm-hmm. Too many times people give gifts that are, as you said, generic, that can be for, quote unquote, anyone, or people go send things that they personally would like and think, oh, well, the person, of course they're going to want this also. And when you start to get to know a person, that is really when you're starting to develop a relationship. And then your, what I call appreciation gestures, become much more meaningful to your client, which then signals to them, A, that you value them as a person, and that B, you are listening and hearing and paying attention to what they're saying and what they're doing. And for anybody, and you know that in any kind of relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's marriage or a business relationship, that is the most important thing, is we each want to feel valued.
No question of that. And one thing that you just said that I think is so important is that you listen to what they're saying. Now, as lawyers, we all listen to what they're telling us that's related to the case or the engagement or whatever project we're working on with them, which is really important. But you're talking about listening in a different way and for other things. So tell me let's say I have a really great referral source. She sends me lots of business, lots of cases.
Mhm.
I really do appreciate her. What should I be listening for when I talk to her?
Well, when somebody comes to me and says, I want to give a gift, the first thing I say is, well, tell me about the person. Tell me about their interests. Are they gardeners? Are they cook? Do they cook? Do they play a sport? Do they play tennis? Do they play golf? What are their hobbies? What kind of music do they listen to? And what I find is most people, even if it's family or friends, really don't know, the person. They can scratch the surface, but when you really start asking those kinds of questions, they can't answer them. And then when I work with businesses and business clients, I can tell you 95% of them tell me flat out blank, I have no idea.
Oh, I do.
And, so my reaction always to that is, okay, like you just said, Sharon, this is an important person who sends you great referrals that end up in, doing business with you. And so this is an important relationship to your business. So the thing I say is, then you really need to get to know that person. And you need to, by getting to know them, you're, cultivating a relationship. And then the things that you do, the gestures, as I call them, whether it's gifts, whether it's a handwritten note, whether it's a book recommendation, whether it's just sending an article of interest to that client, shows, again, like I said, that you've listened and that you are really trying to get to know them, as a person. This goes back to what you said first, as a person, and not just always looking at them as business.
And I really liked what you just said, because when I think of, gifting for clients, literally, I used to think of once a year, send them something at the holidays. But you talk about gifting in a much, much broader sense of sending an item, but you listed a whole bunch of other things like handwritten notes and books. And let's talk about that a little bit. So if somebody's thinking, I can't afford to, send a ton of gifts all the time, what are
Right.
some other things you can do? Yeah.
Well, so again, that's the first thing. You're no different than most people that immediately think of, okay, I have to send a gift. And no, you don't have to do that. When I talk, when you really want to show you value and appreciate a client or a customer, think about having a strategy on how you're going to do it. Now, in business, we have sales strategies, we have marketing strategies, but most businesses, hardly any businesses, have customer relationship strategies. So if you think of it in that respect, then there's a few things that you need to think through in terms of your planning your strategy, just as you do your marketing or your sales strategy. But it's how many times a year do you want to do something? And I say do something. I'm not saying give a gift. So do something. What occasions do you want to acknowledge? So is it, your client's birthday? Is it the anniversary that they started working with you? Or see if let's say that this person loves ice cream, then send them a card on National Ice Cream Day. I can guarantee you that they will receive no other acknowledgement of National Ice Cream Day, and that card will be remembered for a very long time. Again, as you get to know a person, and let's say the person is, well, I'll give you an example. I have a client who is a huge Star Wars fan. And in a business discussion, he made some offhanded remark about Star Wars and how he is a fan of them. So early in the pandemic, I was on a Zoom call, and someone had a Star Wars virtual background. And so I asked the person, well, where did you get that? And she said, oh, I downloaded it. I will send you the link. So she sent me the link. I took that link, put it in an email to my client, and I said, I know you are a huge fan of Star Wars. So if you want to change your virtual backgrounds, you may want to use one of these. And then, about 45 minutes later, an hour later, he emailed me back and said, OMG, I just love these. Thank you so much. Now, what that said to my client was, I listened. I heard what he said, because it was not a whole conversation about Star Wars. It was just an offhanded remark. B, that of course I remembered, but C, every single time he uses one of those virtual backgrounds, he's going to think about me, and he's going to think about my business. And that's exactly what you want. And what happens when you do, as you were saying, the generic gifts is, and if it's food, and I'm not a big proponent of giving food, but if it's food, after it's eaten, there's nothing left to remind your client of them. If it's a bottle of wine, it's the same thing. The water, the bottle, the wine's drank, and then the bottle's thrown away. So sometimes, as I say, and most of the time, the most impactful things you can do are the smallest things, but because it shows that you care and that you listen and you value them. Again, going back to what, your opening statement, you value them as a person.
There's no question of that. I mean, I'm just thinking about, some of the things that I learned about clients as I worked with them, and how I could have done such a better job in just acknowledging simple things. Like, we sent birthday cards to current clients and to past clients to just, say happy birthday, keep our name in front of them.
Right.
But there's so much more I could have done. Like, I'm just thinking, Deborah, as you're speaking, how many times did I talk to clients about their dogs?
Yeah.
Constantly. And so I think recently it was like International Dog Day or National Dog Day or something like that. And how cool would it have been if I had sent something to them on National Dog Day, just to say, I hope Scruffy's, doing well, or something along, just to say, yeah, you're not just a client to me. I'm interested in more than what I need to know for your business, for your case, for your whatever I'm doing for you. I really am interested in knowing about you personally, and I really like talking to you. And as you said, I've remembered. Now, I took notes, so I would remember, like, obviously what their birthday was and some things about them. And I would try to bring some of those things up in subsequent conversations, which is good.
Right.
But just that next step that you just talked about, which isn't expensive, right?
No,
not expensive to do that.
No, not at all. It takes time. And so that's why some of our clients, they say, okay, I want to do this, and we lay out what this is, the strategy, and then they just say, okay, I don't have the bandwidth to do it. I don't have the creativity. I just need somebody else to do it, and then that's where we come in and do that. But let me tell you, I could go. I have stories that the impact that some of these kinds of things that can be done really have on my clients' relationships with their their customers. And I'm not surprised when they come back to me to tell me the story about, the reaction of the recipient of the gesture, but they are very surprised sometimes at the reaction of their customers.
So tell us a story without, telling us any secrets,
Sure.
obviously, but yeah, give us an example of that.
So I have another customer who he owns a moving company, and he had been in the moving business, since he was 18 years old, and a couple years ago decided that he wanted to start his own moving company. And so I told him, I said, you have to do something different because there are umpteen number of movers out there. So you're going to have to stand out, from your competition. So we send every customer he moves a thank you card, a handwritten thank you card to them. And he's told me two different stories. He said one was a woman who called him up and said that she could not believe that she had gotten a handwritten thank you note, period. She had, from doing business with a lot of other different people, had not received that. And it was so beautiful that she was going to save the note.
Wow.
Now, this same customer a couple months ago went to an event, and a woman with two friends, walked up to him and she said, "Oh, you're so-and-so." And so he was a bit, kind of apprehensive about what she was going to say, but he said, "Yes." And she said, "I want to tell you that your company moved me. And then I received this beautifully handwritten thank you note from you. And I really appreciate it." And then she turned around and told her two friends about the note. And so he called me up and he's like, "Okay, this shows me that it is absolutely worth it." And again, those are just notes, handwritten notes. And then I'll tell one other story. So I have a client who came last year to me and said he had a prospect and he really wanted, it was an important, contract, really wanted the business, and could I work with him to send a gift? So said, sure. And we talked about the client. It was a husband and wife who owned the business. And so he picked the gift, we packed it, wrapped it, shipped it. And he didn't get the business last year. However, he followed up with a phone call this year just to check in, just to see how they were doing. And so they requested a meeting with him. So he went to the meeting and he told me that last year when he was pitching business, it was only the wife that he spoke to. In the first meeting, it was both the husband and the wife. And the husband said to him, the gift you sent was the most thoughtful gift we have ever received, including from our friends. And
Wow.
he got the business. So he called me up and said, "Okay, I see what can happen. I want to do more." And so we've now developed a program and are implementing a program for him. So
go ahead.
I know it works. As I tell people, I know it works.
Oh yeah. So tell us about, how you work with clients, and you say you've developed a program. Tell us what that means.
Sure. So when somebody, when a company comes and says they would like to put together a relationship strategy. So we'll sit down, and the first thing we talk about is, okay, what are you doing now? What's your customer experience now? Then ask, okay, who do you want to put, if you put this program in place, who of your clients or customers do you want to put into the program? So some of our clients put in just like the top tier, some, segment them so that the top tier gets X number of gestures during the year, and and work it down. Mm-hmm. But we talk about, okay, who, and then like I said, then we talk about, okay, what occasions do you want to acknowledge? how many times a year do you want to do something? Because it's a 12-month strategy. So it's for a year. So how many times a year do you want to do something? And then what kinds of things do you want to do? Which I was just talking to. So gifts, handwritten notes. It can be, just a short video that you do that you embed into an email or a text. It can be, as I said, book recommendations, podcast recommendations. It can be articles of interest. It can be TED Talks. We've done Zoom lunches where one person is, in their office or home, and the other person, and this works really well for people who aren't in the same, area. We will then find the restaurant or the favorite restaurant of the client, and then we'll order lunch and have it delivered to them, at their home or their office, and then my client and his client or her sit down and have lunch together. Now, of course, it's not as good as being, in a restaurant, but if somebody's on the East Coast and somebody's, in, let's say, Chicago, it's really a great way to sit down and have a lunch conversation.
And how thoughtful that you found out what my favorite restaurant is and brought me lunch from there. I mean,
Yes.
that's just outstanding right there, that touch.
So we talk about, as I said, we talk about the kinds of things that you want to do. And then we pick the dates or the months that these are going to take place, because if you don't, and then we put it on a calendar. So if you don't write it down, it doesn't happen. It's just like goals. It's just like anything else. And, as other things creep into your schedule, this is something that gets pushed down, and then, off. And then the company can take that program or strategy and implement it themselves. And we will do kind of a quarterly check-in to see how everything's going, or, the business can just have us implement it for them. So that's kind of how we build it. And then, it goes from there. So then if we're going to do it, it's, as I said, customized. So this particular program is for you. It's not, no two companies have the same. It's not something I take off the shelf and say, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and these months. So a couple other things, that we were talking about in terms of really staying connected and top of mind. So as I said before, not a proponent of sending food,
Right.
because people have so many food restrictions, whether it's things that they don't eat or they're allergic to, or, that if they don't drink alcohol. And, a gift can have as much of a negative impact as it can as a positive, impact. And I have a friend, not a client, but a friend, who told me that he was pitching a very large contract with a company, and the last person that he was to meet with was the CEO. And it was an early morning meeting. So he stopped by Starbucks and bought two cups of coffee and 2 croissants. And he walked into the CEO's office and said, "How do you take your coffee?" And the CEO says, "I don't drink coffee." Okay. And he said that it was just the worst way to start a meeting. And he said it took a while to kind of get the momentum, going. But he said it was an assumption that I made. I made an assumption he drank coffee. He said I could have called his executive assistant the night before, asked him what he drank, and then got that and not made that mistake. So again, making assumptions with regard to food, because everybody goes, "Oh, everybody," people say, "Oh, everybody likes chocolate. Oh, everybody, likes fruit." And that's not exactly true. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is my clients, most of them, I try and I don't like sending something at the end of the year, because everybody else is doing that. And so your gift or your card or, what you are doing just gets lost in what I call the holiday noise. So it just gets stuck in a pile. And if you send food and people were working in an office, it automatically just goes into the break room. So anybody walking by, takes a piece of cake or a cookie and they don't know who it came from. They don't know why it was sent. And so it has no impact. So I tell my clients, and we either send stuff before Thanksgiving or start again in mid-January, because again, you're away from the holiday period. And mid-January is also quite effective because holidays are over. It's the doldrums of winter, and so it's really nice to, send something, whether it's just even a card, and it stands out because nobody else is
Exactly.
doing it then, and people need a pick-me-up at the end of January.
Exactly. Absolutely. No, those are great tips. Those are great tips. And I know, Deborah, that you have something special that we can access. I've put it in the chat, and I'm going to put up the link on the screen here. Tell us what this is that people can go and download.
Sure. So as we started the conversation about getting to know your customer. And so early on, when I found that my clients, they're like, well, what kinds of things do I need to learn? So I put together this worksheet that I call 12 things to know about your customer. And it's a worksheet with listing, interests, sports participation, sports teams that, fans of, do they drink, wine, or, alcohol? If it's wine, is it red wine or white wine? And I have to say, I've just done this whole thing about not food, but you can also send things that are related to. So like wine, you can send a wine coaster, or a wine bottle holder, or you can send a wine bottle stopper, So again, it's things that will be used over and over. And every time the person uses it, it reminds them, of you. So anyway, so I put this worksheet together to help my clients start to figure out things that they need to get to know about their customers. And as I tell, I've had the grumble, grumble, grumble. How am I going to find this, this information out? And I say, look, I'm sure that when you start a conversation with your customer, it's not immediately into business. It's not like, we need this information for the lawsuit. You probably start out the conversation with, well, what have you been up to lately? Or if it's a Monday, what did you do over the weekend? Or are you planning a vacation this year? And the answers to those questions start to fill out that that sheet. So like person says, oh, I gardened this weekend, or I was in my garden. Okay, gardener, that. Or I went to the opera, loves opera. So I tell my customers, keep the sheet, when you're, by your computer, so that when you have a conversation, you can jot things down, because we get busy and then forget.
We do.
And then when you decide it's time that you want to show appreciation, then you take that information and it helps you to identify something that is meaningful and personalized to your client.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And how helpful that it's incredibly helpful that you put together this list and this worksheet, so that you're right. It's right there by the computer, and just simple things that you would ask your neighbor, your friend, anyone in general conversation, but remember to keep track of it, because that makes a big difference when you're trying to find something that you want to send them as a thank you, or just as a reminder of you. So that's terrific. Now, Deborah, if our listeners say, wow, this is cool, she's great, I really need to talk to her about setting something up for my business, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, on the so download the 12 things to know about your customer, and my email address and phone number is on the sheet. So if you, after looking at it, and you decide that you want to have a further conversation, or you want to specifically talk about setting up a customer relationship strategy, I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Oh, terrific, terrific. All right. So go, everybody who's listening, go to resources.virtuart.com/12 things, as you see on the screen and in the chat. Get your download, and then you'll be able to get the contact information for Deborah, and you can have a conversation with her about what would work for your business, because your business and your clients are very different from your other lawyer friends and their practices, their business, and their clients. So don't forget to do the download. Take advantage of this because it's great information. Deborah, I can't thank you enough. This has just been, this is so fun. And I've learned a lot of things that I'm going to implement, and I have downloaded your 12 things, and I know that it's great. So it's something that I use, and I really appreciate you coming and talking to us today. And I thank you for that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm just going to make one last comment here.
Please.
So as I just said, I'm not a big proponent of sending year-end gifts. However, if you are thinking about doing it, start today. Start figuring out what you are going to purchase. Start placing those orders, because there is still supply chain issues and there are shipping issues. And if in fact you want them to arrive in December, then I highly, highly recommend you start now. And I will end on that.
Good point. Good point. So, but hopefully everybody's listening and realizes that, maybe mid-January would be better, but now's the time to talk to you and
let's start planning.
That's it.
Because it's going to take time for you to gather the information about your customers. So let's start talking now, and let's start planning now.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you're not already doing it, make sure that you follow me on LinkedIn and on Facebook and on Instagram. I'm in all those places. And make sure that you come back because I'm here doing LinkedIn Live twice a week. And I look forward to seeing you the next time. I hope everybody has a great day.